I ranked the 10 biggest wealth killers in personal finance by how quietly they destroy your net worth. And the one sitting at number one isn't debt. It isn't even taxes. And it almost certainly isn't what you're expecting right now. If you're sitting there thinking you already know what's on this list because you've heard the basics before, that's exactly the mindset that keeps most high earners stuck with nothing to show for it. The worst wealth killers aren't the ones you can see on a credit card statement. The ones that do the real damage are invisible. They feel completely normal, and most guys bringing in serious commission income are running straight into them during their best months. I spent years as an independent financial advisor before I ever closed a roof. Every week in my private coaching sessions, I work with high earners at every income level and watch the same patterns destroy the same financial potential in completely different people. The behaviors that did the most damage weren't ignorance. They were blind spots that felt like rational decisions until they weren't. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which 10 behaviors are killing wealth the fastest, where they rank by severity, and which ones a commission earner is most likely to hit without ever seeing them coming. So let's get into the list, starting at number 10 and working down to the one that does the most damage. This one sits at the bottom of the list, not because it's harmless, but because it's the most fixable. Irregular expenses are the bills you know are coming but refuse to plan for. Property taxes, truck tires, HOA fees, the annual insurance renewal. You know they exist, you just don't account for them until they land. The math on this is brutal in its simplicity. Home and auto insurance at $3,600 a year or $300 a month you're not setting aside. A set of truck tires every 18 months at $1,000 is another $55 a month. HOA dues at $1,200 every 6 months are $200 a month. None of these are surprises. You just treat them like they are. What this does to a commission earner specifically is create a predictable financial crisis on a random calendar. The check hits in October, you feel flush, and so you spend like it. Then December rolls around and 3 of these irregular bills land in the same week and the account gets gutted. That's not bad luck. That's a planning failure dressed up as bad luck. The fix is simply mechanical. Name the bill, calculate the monthly equivalent, and move that amount somewhere separate like a sinking fund the moment each commission check clears. The problem was never the expense. It was letting it stay invisible until it wasn't. This one is personal to anyone in this industry. The truck is a tool. It's also a status symbol. And when those two things get confused, you end up with a payment that makes perfect sense in your best month and becomes a slow motion financial problem in every other month. Here's the real damage mechanism. A truck payment at $850 a month is $10,200 a year. Add full coverage insurance at $1,100 a year, and you're at $11,300 before you put gas in it. If you're driving 20,000 work miles a year, the total operating cost runs close to $24,000 annually. That's a number most guys have never actually added up because they've only been looking at the payment, not the full cost of ownership. The commission income version of this problem is worse than the salaried version because the payment doesn't flex with your income. February comes, the phone slows down, the pipeline is thin, and that $850 leaves your account on the same date it always does. I've watched guys stay in a truck they couldn't afford for 3 years because selling it felt like admitting failure. The truck became part of who they were, not just what they drove. That's when a depreciating asset starts doing serious and sustained wealth damage. Most guys have a rough number in their head for what they spend each month. That number is almost always wrong. Not slightly wrong, significantly wrong. The gap between what you think you spend and what you actually spend is one of the most consistent patterns I've seen across years of working with high earners. People underestimate their spending by 20 to 30% on average. And the problem is worse with a regular income because the big months distort your memory. You remember the months when the money flowed and forget the months when it didn't. Your mental average is always higher than your real average. Here's what that gap costs you in practice. If you think you spend $6,000 a month and you actually spend $7,500, you're building every financial decision on a number that's $1,500 short. Your tax estimate is wrong, your savings plan is wrong, and your bills are wrong. Everything downstream of that number is built on a faulty foundation. The specific culprits are always the same. Forgotten subscriptions, daily convenience spending, dining out that adds up faster than it looks, and the more relaxed spending patterns that follow every big close. You close a $15,000 roof and dinner's on you. That's a real pattern with a real cost. You can't fix what you can't see, and most guys are operating completely blind on this. The next one causes more financial chaos per year than almost anything else on this list, and it's completely invisible until tax time. You close $150,000 in commissions, so you feel like a $150,000 earner, and you spend like a $150,000 earner. The problem is you're actually a $105,000 earner after a 30% tax obligation if you're a 1099 and nobody withheld a dollar of it. And when April comes around and you owe $35,000 that you don't have set aside, that's not a tax problem, that's a catastrophe. I've watched this play out with sales reps who had genuinely strong years. They earned really great money, typically for the first time in their lives as a 1099 earner coming from a W-2 position. And then they arrived at a tax season with a bill that functionally wiped out everything they thought they kept. The money was spent because nobody in their company was guiding them on how to actually manage commission income and were only focused on hitting sales quotas. The fix is simple for a 1099 earner. First, you gotta have it in your mind that every commission check that hits your account, 25 to 30% of it is not yours. It belongs to the government. This is easy if you've already been burned once. Move it the same day. Separate bank than your day-to-day spending and in an account labeled IRS. Treat it like it was never there. That single habit, done consistently, eliminates one of the most painful wealth killers in this list before it ever has a chance to fire. This next one I could make an entire playlist on because it's the one that turns a sales slump into a financial crisis and a bad quarter into a catastrophe. Cash is the lifeblood of any business, and that's exactly what you're running in sales, even if you don't own the company. Without a cash reserve, every unexpected expense becomes an emergency, and every slow season becomes a threat to your actual financial stability rather than just an uncomfortable stretch. A W-2 earner with no emergency fund at least knows what next month's paycheck looks like. You don't. You've got a pipeline to maintain, estimates to send out, and hope that they close at your normal rate. No cash reserve forces you to make financial decisions from desperation. You take a bad deal because you need the money now and will deal with the headaches later. You walk into appointments tense and reeking of commission breath. Every one of those decisions is a direct wealth transfer away from your future self that is completely avoidable right now. The target is 9 to 12 months of bare bones expenses sitting in a separate account at a different bank than where you spend, just like your taxes. Not your main checking account where it slowly drips away. Somewhere with enough friction that you don't accidentally spend it on a good weekend when the season is strong. If this list is landing for you, hit subscribe now before we get into the top 5. This is where the real damage happens. Let's be real about the majority of the sales industry. You make more, you spend more. The income goes up and the lifestyle follows it immediately, automatically, and almost always permanently. That's lifestyle inflation, and it's one of the most poisonous wealth killers on this list because it feels like reward, not destruction. The flow is like this. Every time your income jumps, your reference point resets. The $6,000 month that felt like a great month 2 years ago now feels like a slow month. The new truck that felt like a stretch last year when you got it now feels like a baseline. Your lifestyle has inflated to meet your new income, which means your net worth is growing at the rate of whatever's left over after the new normal takes its cut. For most guys, that's not much. Commission income is particularly dangerous because the income jumps aren't gradual. You have a monster busy season. You close a record month. The income spikes fast and the lifestyle rides the wave longer than it really should. The problem is the income spike was short term and the lifestyle upgrades are often long term. I watch guys earn more in a single year than most people make in 3 and arrive at the end of it with less in the bank than when they started. That's a worst case scenario because you've sacrificed both your time and skills for an entire year with literally no payoff for your future. The income was real, the lifestyle followed it immediately, and the wealth was the only casualty. This is the one where your future freedom is the actual victim. Every year you don't invest is a year of growth you can never get back. And for a commission earner who tells himself he'll start investing when things settle down, the clock is running against you right now. The most common version of this I see with high earning commission reps is not that they can't afford to invest. It's that they never set up the structure to make it automatic. The money lands in one account, life happens, and by the time the month is over, there's nothing left to move. That's not a discipline problem. That's a system problem, which means it's a simple fix. The other version is the guy who's waiting for the right time, just like his prospects keep telling him. Waiting for the market to dip, waiting to pay off the truck first, waiting until the slow season is over. Every one of those reasons is justified despite history showing that market timing is the worst strategy to follow. The best time to start was the first year you earned real commission income with a small commitment you could sustain. The second best time is the next check that hits your account, even if that's tomorrow. Pick a starting route like a Roth IRA, a SEP IRA, or a taxable brokerage account at Vanguard, Fidelity, or Schwab. When you're starting, the specific account you choose to hold your investments matters less than the habit of moving money into it consistently. I can tell you that the guys I watch build real wealth on commission income aren't waiting for perfect conditions. They're investing on a schedule regardless of what the market is doing over as long of a period as they can. That's the whole game. This one is a bit technical, but it can do enormous damage. When you're trying to figure out what you actually earn, the instinct is to add up the last 12 months and divide by 12. That gives you your average. And for a commission earner with seasonal income, your average is almost always a lie. Here's why. One monster month skews the whole number. You have a $45,000 month in April during a strong storm season. That single month pulls your 12-month average up significantly, even if 7 of those months were between $5,000 and $10,000. Your average says you're a $15,000 a month earner. Your median, the actual middle of your income distribution, might be $7,000. The problem starts after you've been budgeting, spending, and planning off a number that overstates your real earning pattern by a couple $1,000s a month. That gap is where forecasting expectations you set at the beginning of the year get crushed. You set your lifestyle at the average, you make financial commitments at the average, and then you live most of your months at the median, constantly short, constantly catching up, never understanding why the math doesn't work. The cash flow system I built is anchored to this exact distinction. Median month, not average month. It's the foundational number that makes everything else accurate. Get that number wrong and every financial decision downstream is built on a cracked foundation. And here's when it makes sense. I had months and years of recorded data that showed me that my income stayed within a certain range for the entire year, with the occasional spike occurring during the active storm seasons. For the most part, my income was steady because of our company provided lead flow and by managing my close rate. If you're consistent year-round, then average is okay. If you're active 7 months out of the year and floating the rest, or your income fluctuates monthly, then use median. This is the one that explains why a sales rep can earn $150,000 in a year and arrive at the end of it with $4,200 in checking and no real explanation for where the rest went. Like most of these wealth killers, it comes down to being a structural problem, but let's take it a step further. When everything lands in one account and leaves from one account, every dollar is available for everything at all times. The $8,000 commission check hits your checking account and it looks like $8,000 you can spend. It isn't. Part of it belongs to the IRS, part of it to the mortgage, part of it to the investment account you're building up. But when it's all sitting in one account, it all looks the same. It all looks available and your brain treats it that way. This is exactly what the 5-account structure solves. Money split across separate accounts at separate banks the moment it lands. Living needs, lifestyle wants, future freedom, taxes, and a fun account. Each dollar gets a job the same day it arrives. The money that belongs to the IRS never looks like spending money because it's never in your spending account. This system is what I created and used to pay off my $175,000 mortgage in full in 16 months on commission income. And honestly, it felt easy. That's what a real forecasting baseline combined with a real allocation structure made possible on my specific income and my specific timeline. Without a system, money moves through your life and leaves no trace. With a system, every dollar is accountable before you touch it and you don't even have to think about it. Here's the one that overrides every system, every plan, every good intention, and every moment of clarity you've ever had about your finances. It takes the most effort and it can only be accomplished by you no matter what help you have on your side. Identity mismatch is the #1 wealth killer on this list because it operates below the level of behavior. It's not what you do with your money, it's who you believe you are. The commission earner version of this looks like this. You're a closer. That identity is real. It's earned, and it's the reason you make the income you make. Closers are assertive, confident, eat what you kill, and they do not wait for permission. That identity is an asset in the field, but it become a liability on the balance sheet because that same identity tells you the truck is non-negotiable. The dinner's on you. The upgrade makes sense. You can simply sell more because you control your income. Saying no to the expense feels like restriction and saying no to who you are. And so the system never sticks because that feels like restriction too. It lasts a solid 3 weeks and slowly trails off. The savings plan gets raided when a good opportunity shows up, not because you're undisciplined, because every financial constraint feels like a threat to your identity as a closer. The shift isn't going from closer to accountant. That's not the move and it's not what works. The shift is understanding that the same traits that make you a champion in the field can be pointed at your net worth. It's about striking a balance between being a consumer and an accumulator. The sales rep who builds real wealth on commission income isn't less of a closer. He's a closer who decided his financial life gets the same intensity as his sales life. Same identity, different target. That's the wealth killer that makes every other one on this list possible. Fix the identity and the systems actually work. Leave it undeveloped and you'll blow through every system you ever build, no matter how good it is. Hey Root Money Pros, if this list hits close to home, then hit subscribe because every week I'm breaking down financial insights for people living on commission income. Grab the free Feast or Famine Survival Guide, links in the description. It walks you through the forecasting foundation so you know exactly what your income is actually doing before you try to manage any of it. And if you want the full allocation structure, the 5-account setup, and the system I use to pay off my mortgage in 16 months on commission income, that lives inside the Feast Masterclass, which you can get today. But start with a guide. That's where the foundation gets built. Thanks for watching, and in the meantime, keep stacking, keep building, and I'll see you in the next one.